I'm Vicki Hogarth and welcome to Southwest Magazine. My guests today are Pat Barker and Caroline Davies from the St. Andrews Paddling Club. Thank you both for joining me.
Well, thanks for having us.
Can we start off just by telling people who might not know, because it's a fairly new club, a little bit about what you do and who's in your group and how long you've been going for?
Well, we started in 2019. We established a board that we're really behind it and engaged the community. And there's 20 people paddling in the boat with a steerer and a drummer in a race. Well, you obviously need a steer during your practices, but yeah.
And can people of all ages or experience levels be a part of it? Is something you're looking for with someone who has a background in paddling?
People of any age can paddle. We have people in, I'm not going to say that they were 80, but they might have been 80, and we had some members who were 12.
Wow.
And they paddled well together. It didn't really make a difference. Yeah. And everybody had fun.
Now, Pat, you do have an extensive background, though, in dragging boating. You've even written a book about it. Can you tell us a little bit about your history with the sport and where it's brought you in your life?
Well, I started paddling when a friend of mine convinced me to come out for this team that they were starting. In 1986, Hong Kong gave Vancouver, during Expo 86, the theme of the fair was transportation and communication. So Hong Kong sent over 6 dragon boats, and we started the first festival there. And a couple of years later, we ended up going to the World Championships in Hong Kong. We were second that year, but it was really motivating. We beat the Chinese. Nobody had ever beaten them in the sport. And we went back the next year and won gold, and subsequent years after that. And in 1995, they had the first official World Championships in Hunan, which is the birthplace of dragon boating. And it's been going on they figure it's the oldest water sport. It's been going on over 2,000 years.
I was going to ask next, what is the history of the sport? But that sort of starts it. Can you tell us a little bit more about its history in the world of sport?
Sure. So it goes back to the Warring States period when Chu Wan was a patriot and poet. And he was banished for political exile into a remote area of northern China. And he eventually committed suicide and drowned in the Milo River. And the community, I guess, was devastated by his loss, and they went out with dragon boats and threw rice into the water, and it just became a festival after that. And so they've been racing. There's over 60 countries that participate at the World Championships, and what's great about the sport is that people can do it of any age. They've got World Championships for any age group. They're talking about even having a 70-plus division in not this Worlds, but the next World Championships. So they've got an under-16 World Championships.
What made you think it was a good sport for St. Andrews? What made you think, let's bring it here, and why is it working?
Well, I guess it started with the age-friendly community initiative. Pat participated. We had a Day for the Ages where we invited members of the community to come in and give input as to what would make this a better community. And, you did the old sticky thing where people went and said, this is a good idea, that's a good idea. And one of the ideas that Pat put up was dragon boating. And so some of the people, sort of did 2 thumbs up. And a few of us got together afterwards and talked to Pat and try and figure out how we could make this work, what it entails. Once you have the boat and you have paddles and life jackets, well, and now masks, you really don't have an expense for equipment. So it sort of seemed like a good fit for this community. We have the water and people love to be on the water, so we just went after it.
I think what a lot of people don't realize when they start out is how life-changing it is, because it really becomes a community and a support system, and you make friends for life in the sport.
And it's interesting because, as I said, you've got people of all ages, but you have people of all different backgrounds also who get in the boat and have fun. I mean, there's no sort of, oh my gosh, did you see so-and-so wasn't paddling well today? It's more, oh, maybe we've got to learn to listen to Pat or whoever's coaching and get our strokes going better. And you actually work to encourage each other rather than to sort of blame each other for not going faster or whatnot. So I think that that's where it started. And the response in 2019, we had 35 members, was for a small community, was phenomenal. So it was very encouraging.
I've had the pleasure of coming down to do some news stories, and the boat is beautiful too. Are there different skill sets, or let's say you were stronger or lighter? How does it work in terms of what your skill set might be and where you would be positioned in the boat?
That's a good question. So typically the people in the stroke position, they're in the front of the boat, they've got good timing, good technique, and they're easy to follow. So you'll have the lighter, more technical people in the front. The middle of the seat, in the newer boats, they're more consistent, but in the older boats, like a 616, there's a lot more room in the middle seat, so you have the bigger, stronger people in the middle. And in the back of the boat, it's funny because some teams end up using that as a dumping ground for people that have bad timing or just new, but that's one of the hardest seats to paddle in because the water's moving faster back there. The front of the boat's also very hard because you're getting green water up front. But it's not necessarily how strong you are, but how well you work together, because it's all about timing. You can get people that are really strong, and another team, you'll look at the start line and you'll think, we got them. And then it's like, they've got such perfect timing that.
As a coach, what are some of the skills that a person develops to make them a great team member? What qualities would you need to be good at it?
Right. So being strong, being team-oriented, being able to take coaching, because sometimes it's hard if you're being told to do things over and over again, and just really with this sport, it's probably the easiest paddling sport to learn. And the nice thing about dragon boating is that it introduces you to other canoeing sports. A lot of people that start trying out for the teams, like the World Championship teams, end up buying outrigger canoes, and because that's how they do time trials to select the team. It's part of the process. Kayaking, and if you're a good swimmer, you'll probably make a good paddler because you know how to pull through the water.
Were you new to the sport, Caroline, when you tried it out for
brand spanking new? Yes.
And what did you immediately love about it or find challenging?
I love being on the water, so that was great to be out there. It was great to be out there with other people and seeing how you had to work with them. One of the things I guess I fell into was sort of inadvertently is because we didn't have a steer one day, and I actually quite like steering.
She's a good steer. She picked it up right away.
So you realize, and when you're standing in the back steering, you see how the team works and how they work as a team and how they correct each other or correct themselves if they notice that they're a bit out of time or whatnot, or if if Pat's was coaching, and she says, right side do this, all of a sudden they do it. It was really neat to watch and to see how fast those boats can turn in the water. That you look at, it's 40 feet long, and yet it can turn on a dime. Wow. In some respects. It's just it's really amazing. So it was trying to get fit. You have to be fit to paddle and paddle well.
And you'll get fit if you're not. Okay. The first couple of practices might be tough, but it's funny how people come out and they think they want to try it, and they try one, and they come back a second time, and all of a sudden you've got them hooked.
Is the aim of the club to eventually get competitive and compete?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Although, I don't want to deter people that just want to come out and socialize and get fit and have fun. Certainly, but the team would like to do some races we had planned before COVID.
What kind of a time commitment is it for people who might be curious about joining this year?
Right now, we're doing 2 to 3 practices a week. And everybody signs up on Team Snap, which keeps everybody organized, and who can make it, and how many people are going to be attending. And this year we hope to buy a second boat to be able to follow COVID regulations, and then we'll be able to race each other, and it'll make the teams better, and it's more fun to just be constantly racing the other team on the water.
How has the team adapted during COVID-19? Obviously, we're going into a second summer in the pandemic. What challenges does it make for dragon boat racing?
Well, last year we, based on the guidance from Dragon Boat Canada, we did not put the boat in the water. They were suggesting that you would paddle with 5 people, that you'd have to wear goggles and masks, and we just felt 5 people with all basically new paddlers was not going to be as good an experience. So we bought some stand-up paddle boards, which got used all last summer, which was great. So people could still get on the water, and again, you're doing. You're strengthening your body. It might not look like, well, it might not look, but it is work, and it also gives you balance, and it does a lot of positive things. So that worked. This year we have, based on the guidance, we've determined we can put 10 people in the boat, so that's 1 per bench, with masks. These are water-resistant masks. Now, the other thing we could do is make an appeal that if somebody wants to sponsor these masks for the club, we will embroider their name or their logo on the masks.
And we are looking for sponsors.
Yes, we are definitely looking for sponsors. Yeah. And in part because we want to get 20 people out per practice, we need a second boat.
Right.
And so we have to pay for a second boat. Yeah. I think there is enthusiasm. If we have 10 people in the boat, they can paddle and they can learn. In some respects, I think they'll learn how to paddle better because there's not
slowing down.
So I think that'll be actually good for us as a new club to get better technique. And it'll probably be easier because you know that from the water, coaching from the side, that you probably can see better each individual.
If they're slower.
So I think that with a second boat, I think it'll be a lot more fun, and we're hoping that it'll encourage people to come out and join us.
The boats are really a beautiful sight when you do see them. Where would you even acquire one? Where did you find the first one?
Well, Vincent Lowe brought the first boats over back in 1990. He flew 2 boats over, Vincent Lowe and Don Irvin, and they started a company called 616 because at that time we had to train in these big, heavy Voyager canoes with 10 people to a boat, and it's really hard to get the same sort of workout that you would in the Dragon boat, and especially for racing. So in order to compete at a world championship level, we needed to get Dragon boats. So they started manufacturing them. And so we bought ours from Montreal through a company called Mission, and we're looking at possibly buying a BUK this time, which is a IDBF, International Dragon Boat Federation standard boat. And it's a little bit more stable. So we'll have 2 boats this summer.
And for people who haven't seen where you practice yet, where do you do your dragon boating?
Katie's Cove. Yoo-hoo! Well, it means a lot to a lot of people in this community because most of us grew up learning to swim in Katie's Cove, so it's neat to see it being used not just for swimming but also for paddling.
And I understand that there are dreams of possible festivals taking place with the paddling club for bringing people who dragon boat competitively to St. Andrews, maybe in future years to come.
Yeah, we were hoping to do that next year, then COVID hung around. So we're planning to do that either next year or 2023. And it'll start off to be a small festival. We'll recruit different corporations and hopefully the high schools and elementary schools will get involved.
As part of a festival, the teams who come to it aren't necessarily competitive teams. They could be a team, as Pat said, say of high school students, and they will get some basic coaching and technique and sitting in the boat and feeling before the race. So it's not like somebody says, "Oh, just jump in and start paddling." They do actually get some coaching. And the steerer will be somebody who's experienced, so they don't have to provide their own steer. So at least the boat will be guided in a safe and hopefully straight manner.
The training's fun, but the racing's a riot. The racing is when it all comes together.
Most of them are sprints, so it's it's pretty exciting. And it doesn't have to be you're going to the World Championships, but if you can win a race at a festival and a community festival such as we hope to have here in St. Andrews, it's a fabulous experience.
Yeah, are there other festivals in the world that would be similar
to Katie's Cove?
To the one you're thinking of doing?
There's a lot of community festivals all over the world. It's amazing. Even it's funny because a lot of people associate dragon boating with breast cancer survivors, and that's really thanks to Dr. Don McKenzie out of UBC or British Columbia. He started the program because they used to think that it was bad for breast cancer survivors to do upper body workout, and he proved otherwise. So it started out with just a few teams, and at the last World Championships in Italy in 2018, there were over 100 teams from around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
You brought one of the paddles with you today. Can you just show it off, Caroline? And is that a specific to dragon boating? I don't know my paddling.
The shape is
okay.
Very specific to dragon boating.
And what makes it special? What is it about the size and the shape that is made for dragon boating?
This is actually really lightweight.
Okay.
We ordered them from a company 2 years ago, but they're straight up and down as well. Whereas you might have a marathon canoe blade that'll go out like this, or outrigger canoe blade. But
they have the bar at the top.
They've changed a lot too over the years. Like Portland used to have a festival, and their paddles looked like oars. They were really heavy.
They're lovely to paddle with, also.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Yeah.
As someone who picked up the sport, Caroline, did you notice that you had did you have better upper body strength? What kind of benefits did you take away from it besides just the social elements and the community?
Well, a couple of things. I was recovering from knee surgery, and so for me, it gave me a chance to get out and get back to paddling, and so I did feel stronger, but also with steering, it got my balance back in terms of being able to move with the boat and stuff, and I'm not sure that a physiotherapist would say that's the way you should go about building up your knee, but for me it did help tremendously in terms of giving me more stability. Okay. And I'm looking forward to getting back on the water.
And things like stand-up paddleboarding, is that a way to sort of practice on your own time? Would that have any?
Absolutely. Yeah. And as part of the membership, you also get to use the stand-up paddleboards. We have 4, so as Caroline mentioned.
Oh, wow. And are those located at Katie's Cove?
They will be.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. And one of the assets I think that your team has, and Pat, you are very understated in all of your talents, but you are a pretty renowned coach. Can you talk a little bit about your background and where coaching has taken you around the world?
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I got selected in 2016 to coach the U.S. national team. And they went to China in 2017. So they won 4 bronze medals. But they had their fastest time, so they were pretty excited about that. And the last World Championships, they actually won quite a few races. They came back with quite a few golds. And I've coached since 1986. Yeah.
How is she as a coach, Caroline?
She's a fabulous coach. She's very encouraging. I was going to say understated, but I don't mean that in a negative. It's just she's quietly just gets you sort of back to thinking what you need to be doing. She also, one of the things I believe in any sport is to be able to watch how somebody else does something. So she will use, watch how so-and-so puts their paddle in the water, which is a lot easier than trying to figure out how you're doing it, but you can't see how you're doing it. So, no, Pat's a fabulous coach.
Thank you.
And what do you enjoy about coaching?
I think the biggest thing is seeing people improve, and come together as a team. Mm-hmm. And I, coming from a competitive background, I like to see people do well as well. So I'm really excited to get out there and do our first race.
As a sport, what do you take away from it? I find that all sports offer different sort of life lessons. What kind of things do you take away as a person from dragon boating? I know obviously it's a team sport, so there's a sense of working together.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is working together and blending. We talk about blending as a team. because you really can get 20 super strong, amazing athletes and put them in a boat, and if they can't, learn to work together, you can't just go out and do your own thing. You can't go out and paddle as hard as you want to in dragon boating. You kind of have to, not so much dial it down, but certainly at the beginning, until you've nailed timing, you can't put your all into it. And yeah, it's a learning curve. And learning how to use your body properly, because a lot of people start out just using their upper body, like just using their arms, and it really is a core workout. So and your legs, it's surprising how much leg drive you use.
What kind of benefits do you accidentally have?
Yeah.
From my stand-up paddleboard, I've noticed like core and balance even.
Yes, for sure.
I don't want to say I've become better. I like to think I have.
And if anybody is worried about, maybe getting into the boat, maybe they have some sort of a disability that may prevent them from getting in. Again, it comes down to the team that will help you in the boat.
What do you say to that novice who wants to try it out, who maybe doesn't feel athletically inclined?
Oh, just come down. Okay. Come down and give it a try. You'll find the team very supportive.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about your book on dragon boats? What does it cover? It's a pretty big book.
Say that again.
Can you talk to a little bit about the book that you wrote? What inspired you to write it, and what does it cover?
Well, at the time, I was actually working on a documentary film, and I approached Cathay Pacific to bring a film crew over there to China to the first official World Championships. And the more I looked into the sport, and there was nothing, like you didn't have the internet that you could just Google dragon boating like you can now. So I had a friend in Hong Kong that was sending me journals and things from the library there. And I thought, this could be a book. And I was just about to leave the office at Cathay, and I mentioned to Carolyn Schrader that, I think this could also be a book. And I brought a dummy book, just a pretend dragon boat book, what it would look like. And she said, you really should go see Mark Stanton at Raincoast Books. And I saw him that week and signed the contract the next day. So they thought it was a great idea. Nobody'd ever written a book on dragon boating before. So it was a really fabulous opportunity to do that.
For people who are interested in joining, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way? Or even just following on your social media what you're up to?
So we do have a Facebook page, St. Andrews Paddling Club, and that has been relatively inactive in large part because we weren't doing much because of COVID. So that's being reactivated. We're also going to have an open house on the weekend of Paddle Fest, and we will do, I think, what we did 2 years ago, where we parked our dragon boat here by the arena and have some of the club members around to talk and maybe hand out membership forms and whatnot. Depending on the level of interest and response, you might even get a booth at the farmers market on a Thursday.
Nice.
We haven't agreed yet, I don't believe, but I thought we did wonder if we should have a session where people could come and try it for somebody who's never been in a boat before they actually sign up. So that way, you test drive a little bit and realize that, while it looks tippy, you're not going to fall in the water.
And
we also talked about doing a $10 drop-in fee, that if you did want to try it out, and that $10 would go towards your membership if you did want to join.
Okay. And if people wanted to help with fundraising or donations in terms of the second boat, would they just get in touch with one of you?
Oh, yes.
And when can we expect to see you back in the water?
Well, we're hoping the first week of June.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so if you're at home, that's the time to come check it out. It would be a good time, I imagine, for newcomers too, because it'll be everyone new for the start of the year.
And we're doing it in the evening, so I think we'll stick with that.
Yeah, two days during the week, and possibly one day on the weekend, just for people that can't make it during the week.
Well, I will try to join you this summer, I promise.
We'll hold you to it. Yeah.
Thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks,
Thank
Vicki.
you.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO-TV, New Brunswick's only source for independent community television.